Jumbo Africa. Well, we're back here at the Calabash FNB Stadium. This time around is episode 3 of African Football Connect, connecting the African football continent. Well, I was not here last week.
Yeah. You were gallivanting in Cairo.
Yeah. Thanks so much for holding the fort.
Yeah, I wanted to take your job, but I failed.
What did you bring us?
The technocrat is here. There's plenty to talk about, but definitely not what happened here. Because so those abantu, if we were to look at that. Yeah. But as we can say on the African Football Connect, it's been an exciting the past 2 weeks of the first 2 editions of African Football Connect. One of the things I can say is also some of the topics that we've been also looking at, some developments there. But today, in terms of our lineup, we talk about Bafana Bafana. They are in camp currently in Polokwane, the ranch. It's back to the World Cup qualifiers. We'll also touch on other important World Cup qualifying matches taking place, especially in our group. So there's some very interesting matches. Nigeria, they are 4 points behind South Africa, Rwanda, and Benin. They'll want to catch up on that. Some other matches. Benni McCarthy is also playing his first game as well. It should be interesting.
The Harambe Stars.
Yes, the Harambe Stars. And also, we'll do the recap of the CAF Elections. It's very interesting, that one. I think, Zuzo, I will have to relinquish everything. You have to ask me there. Because,
because you were in the thick of things,
Yes, Fuba, in terms of, we saw the elections, but the drama behind it is just something else. And the source, we have the under-17 in camp. In fact, they're leaving next week. On Monday, on the 24th. The under-20 is just starting the camp now. They are preparing for the AFCON in Abidjan next month. Also, there's the issue of the TD, Walter Steenbok. Some interesting revelations there.
You hear that age from the coach.
One of the things I can tell you, that I've heard a lot of things, but people are saying it's maybe causing him to resign. It does look like. This is very much part of it, because his predecessor, Neil Tovey, was fetching almost triple of what he's getting from what we are hearing. And also, we go back again. This is not a topic that I like about Rulani, Mokwena, and Wydad, Casablanca, but that story is refusing to go away. But I think let's just start with the AFCON qualifiers with Bafana Bafana. So we saw the camp starting yesterday. The coach was happy that the full complement of the squad is there. But I also understand that there's been since some serious changes that took place there.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that he raised sharply, Coach Hugo he speaks his mind and he shoots from the hip, for lack of a better word. This whole issue of communication between the national team and clubs, it's a ugly head again. Pirates, Maswangani, the coach says, I don't know if whether the guy was injured or what's happening. He's not in camp. He's been ruled out. I think there should have been better communication from the national team, and his club obviously was not there on Sunday when they beat Sundowns. Clearly the guy is not fit enough to play. That is one thing that he was not happy about, and he had to make a change. But other than that, I think everything is good in the camp. All the players are there. I saw pictures of even Lyle Foster is in the camp, and they look good, which is what you need, I think it's been a couple of days now. They all arrived on Sunday. So the coach has had enough time to work with the guys. It's not pretty much few new players that you can say they need to be integrated into the team, but the rest of the guys know the inner workings of the national team, and I think they should be good.
If my information is right, he was injured already a Saturday at training or something, I don't know. So everybody knew that Patrick was with the national team. I think at that moment a little call and said, look, I'm injured, can't play tomorrow, I can't be on the camp. That gives us more time to look for another player. So this morning, with all the other problems, we had to call him. And we are lucky that he's living here in Polokwane. Imagine that he has to come from Chipa or whatever. Then we have to wait, then he will only be tomorrow here. So, yeah, a little bit more, how you call that, being occupied with the fact that your player can play or injured or not injured. Just give the information. They don't have to call me, call the doctor. I said, look, there's a problem with Patrick, blah, blah, blah. He's not ready for the camp. Okay. But then we have to wait. And yesterday evening, 7:30, I think, or 8 o'clock, I received a call from the team manager saying, oh no, Patrick is injured. Oh, he wasn't on the list of the players for the game of yesterday. We don't know. So just give information. What's wrong with giving information to a doctor? If they don't want to give it to me, call the doctor. It's so easy, and it helps us a lot when we knew it at the right moment.
In fact, on the point that you are talking about, because the president of TS Galaxy had came out to say the player will have the passport
in no time.
Exactly. Let's just hear from what the coach said. Because the coach has responded. And he goes on to say, when the player is ready to be selected, I'm the one who will say, is he ready for the camp?
You know, first of all, I know that the president or the chairman of TS Galaxy want more TS Galaxy players in the team, but they have to be available. So you see, when you call someone, you don't have a passport. Secondly, I think that players, when they are on the preliminary list, the first thing they have to look at after is, do I have a passport? Because there is it can be, there is be an opportunity for them to be with the national team. You need to do everything, nearly everything, when there is a called up, even when you are on the preliminary list. So in that case of Ndamane, he knew already 14 days ago that maybe there was a possibility that he should be with the national team. So you don't have to look after if I have a passport or not the moment you are really called up. Just try to have one and be ready. So it's a pity for him, huh? He had an opportunity to be with the national team, and now it's because you don't have a passport. And you know, if you only will be in order with passport and with visa at the end of the week, yeah, I don't think that this is the right moment to call you. When you are here, you have to be ready for everything. And that was not the case with Ndamane.
Very interesting what the coach has to say there. And I think it's all about respecting the boundaries from how the coach is handling this issue here. Because you hear him, he says, when the squad was announced 2 weeks ago, that's when a player must check if do I have a passport, so that in that 2-week period
we can arrange.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For me, it's disappointing, the venture. A professional player without a passport.
Yeah.
So where's your standard? So that means you're not willing to go for greener pastures. So your club is your boundary. So in your country, you are safe. So why then you playing this game if you really want to extend yourself to outside world? Because every time you're playing, this league is part of the top 10 leagues in the world. You know everybody's watching, scouting at any given time. Let's say now, for instance, a team in Europe scouts you and then they want you for trials. National team is another thing, but it starts with the team because national team will represent everybody broadly. So a player not having a passport, to me, it's unacceptable.
I've heard people talking about the player. I've heard people also talking about the club, maybe a bit. You are my representative. You are managing my affairs. What is your duty?
No, I disagree. Personally.
No. The circumstances, the players come from different backgrounds.
Correct.
You know, players come from different backgrounds.
Correct, I agree.
You'll never know. Yeah, I understand. But if you are my manager, and I know that I've now brought you to this level, you know. Yes. But these are some of the things that and I'm saying this based on a conversation I had with one of the representatives.
Yeah.
These are some of the non-negotiables that they always make sure that their players have, because you never know.
Yeah, I think just to add there, the player is wrong, the club is wrong, the agency is wrong. As a player, I think it must be number one your duty to make sure that you have got the documents. But let's, for argument's sake, say you don't have knowledge or for whatever reason, the club should make sure that you have traveling documents. Your agent must make sure that you have traveling documents. And I think maybe at some stage we really need to zoom into this thing of really what agents do for the players. Because, players are always willing to talk when they've retired to say, but hey, I had an agent, but I only see this guy only when I went to sign a contract.
When you want to renew,
yeah,
when you're signing and then when you're renewing, yeah.
But also, if an agent has got the best interest of the player at heart, of the client, you must make sure that these things are happening. Not only a passport. There's a lot of other stuff that players need help with. So that the guy must just focus on playing football. Those things don't happen. The club, the manager at the club. I mean, I had an interview with Shus Mekutu at the Cape Town. He says he has had situations where a player who is traveling arrives at an airport without an ID or a passport. It's just an unbelievable thing that players sometimes also don't take responsibility. And the player must be blamed, the club must be blamed, and the agency must be blamed.
But again, the venture. Not so long ago, Tex Galisi was actually on tour in Turkey.
Yeah.
So what does that say? This is why this angers me, because we've been through this.
And the president was saying that actually, that they are a club that also has these trips.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like really? So for us to come and debate this, for me, I don't get it. Because now you have traveled. You went on camps overseas. What do you travel with? Passport, not ID.
Okay.
Yeah, if it does, I mean, as
well, that passion also comes from coach Source is also an academy coach.
Yeah.
And one of the things at the academy, dealing with the 13-year-olds and the 14-year-olds, they must all have passports, right? To also play in these leagues.
Yes. So for instance, on the academy side, should we have a tour? This is to prepare the parents earlier, which is on the topic that we'll touch on the TD, the importance of having a technical director. And also, on my end, is to ensure that anything that I'll be planning, I need to include parents. I need to let them know where they're going, what they're going to be, how long they're going to stay. Should they be off days from school or closer to holidays? I need to prioritize all of those things. They come in line. So for me, I will not wake up tomorrow and say, hey, listen guys, tomorrow we are going to Germany. And parents are going to look at you and say, what? What are you saying? So if I give them in advance, or when now they're starting to play more maturely into our setup, then I'll know now I can prepare for the trips to go to overseas, or now I've formed a relationship with certain teams overseas so that our players can be exposed. So in that, I'll start by telling the parents early before we get to that stage that, guys, please organize your documents, because this is what we are about.
Very interesting. Still on Bafana, looking at the changes that have since taken place now, it's also interesting to see the collapse, in fact, the replacements that the coach has also brought in. And it tells you that some people maybe just see him in certain matches, but they don't see how wide he's casting his net.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at the call-up of Maphangule, the call-up of Letlapa, it tells you in terms of, in fact, we already saw it from that preliminary squad.
Yeah, I think it's casting the net wide. That's what you've got to do. I mean, we were talking off here that I must be honest that I've been watching Mokwena, but I didn't really make much of this Letlapa boy. He's one of those players that are effective, but you see him, but you don't see him. And I'm happy for him that he's got an opportunity. Maybe he will be used late in the late stages against Lesotho. Not that we are disrespecting Lesotho, but he'll probably get his chance to show what he can do. But obviously he will be a little bit down in the pecking order, especially at his position where I think Pastor Dean now will have to get a chance to play there because he's been deputizing for a while now. And I mean this journey is long. We're building up to to the World Cup. The more players we are introducing to the team setup, the better for us. You don't want situations where you are closer to an AFCON or to a World Cup, players are introduced to the squad for the first time. So I think the coaches do a good job, and it shows the fact that when he's actually going around watching matches, actually scouting players. It's not just sitting there doing nothing, which is another thing which is very important. Yeah, and I think the coach maybe can add to that to say scouting of players, because the coach is almost there watching football.
Exactly, and in fact, one of the things, if there's one game, scripting for Soccer Zone makes these things is because I watch all of them, and there's one game in the last 2 months, I think they played against SuperSport. The coaches, they talk about the underlapping and the overlapping. In one of his assists, he was underlapping. In one of his assists, he was overlapping. He had 2 assists in one game against SuperSport, if you remember that game. But coach, I'm interested in Letlapa. I know you've watched him. What kind of a left back is he, and how does he come in and help, especially as a backup in the space, and also Maphangule as well? And why do you think the coach has not gone for? He lost a more offensive and attacking player in Masongani, but his first choice was more of a midfielder who's like Snoqolo Kwaiba. He didn't get Kwaiba, and then he went for someone who's even more in Maphangule.
Okay, just to start with the first one, in terms of the modern left back, for me it's important to have a left back that could also advance into the creation zone, and also that will give you an assist in terms of the build-up play. Being comfortable on the ball, and also knows and have an understanding, as you spoke about the underlaps and the overlaps, which becomes important. So what is an underlap? An underlap is a run that is made inside when the winger is actually on the line. So when the winger is hugging the line, the left back then has an opportunity for a half space that is open to drive into that space. So while they're pressing the wing on the side, yes, more like inverting. So when you make that run, if they do follow, it allows the left wing to come and collect short. However, if they follow the left back, and then that opens up the spaces behind. So it's always about space management and having a player that understands that role quite well. Modiba does it most of the time, but it's more for a player that will actually play more on the line, which will allow our number 10 to play into the half spaces, or also get the strikers to use the space while the left wing actually pushes on the line. So the importance of that, on having such a player who's technically good, who also reads the moment. Then the nice part that I like about this is when you're having a team that has a philosophy of starting their play at the back, it allows all players to be comfortable on the ball, and then knowing that their jewels becomes important on turnovers, their jewels also important in terms of advancing the play. And moving into the middle, when you have a more strong character in the middle, which is you're allowing that you're going to lock up the game and then free maybe 2 players, which is sometimes you can play with a double pivot or a single pivot. But if you're going with a more stern and a stronger player, what you're allowing now, you're allowing to have a more defensive balance. So then your back 4 is when you're in transition. Defensive transition, then we know that we're locking it up. We had 2 screeners on front. Now you'll only allow 1 to go, and then the pivot will stay to recycle play, either left or right.
SSS Colwyn. And then Maphangule, I'm sure it's a player that you've been watching. Tell us more about him.
Yeah, for me, you start looking at the characteristics of a player, and then the selections informs you in terms of why the coach goes for such a player. So for me, watching him is the one player that will actually control play, and then is helping the team in terms of their build, whether it's a steady build or it's a fast break attack. So having those variations, you're starting to look at now, how am I going to balance with the existing players that are within the setup? So when I fall away due to injuries or selection and so on, then I have a player that is immediately available to help us in terms of still keeping the same philosophy, because we do not need to be far off from the philosophy.
Still on Bafana Bafana, now we move to the matches that we're playing. The coach is talking about 6-on-6.
As everybody knows, it's important games in front of us. It's a key moment. I said it already before, when we can achieve 2 victories now against Benin and Lesotho, I think we can make a big step in qualification. Certainly also taking in account the other games. So we will try to do it. At the other side, we know that it will be tough and difficult games. First of all with Lesotho. Lesotho is a team, really a team. They are fighting for each other, they are fighting for each meter and every ball. And they are playing against South Africa. So I think they can always do something more against South Africa than against other teams. So again, it will be a tough game, and then we have the game outside against Benin. The only advantage we have here that Benin is playing in Ivory Coast, so the big crowd, the supporters will not really there, and that is a little advantage for us. But again, we saw what the game was more than a year ago here in, I think we played in Johannesburg. We won 2-1, but it was a very, very difficult game, so it will be a difficult game also next week in Ivory Coast. But we have to be confident. I think we can do that, the 6-on-6.
We have Lesotho, and then we go to Abidjan. Also, Benin is not playing at home because they are not complying with the requirements of FIFA and CAF in this case. Is this 6-on-6 achievable, Zizo? Not taking anything away from our team. We know that we've done things like this in the past, but I'm also looking at this Benin team beat Nigeria there in Abidjan. And also, I think the 6-on-6 is also very important because it also means that we're breaking away from Rwanda and Benin. So by the end of this international week, we are the outright leaders in our group.
Yeah, it's going to be crucial. Obviously not easy. For me, of these 2 matches, the most dangerous one is Lesotho. You have seen so many times in the past a team that you expected to beat is actually the one that is very difficult. And I think I'm happy that they're playing them first because they don't want to start on the wrong foot. I think they will go to the match in Polokwane. They will play. The coach is a no nonsense guy. They just have to do the things right. Don't complicate stuff. We're at home. As Coach Putu used to say, 3 points at home. You don't mess around at home. And Benin can be tricky.
Yeah.
Most of these West African countries have got players playing in good leagues across Europe. Some of them we don't really know much about them because they're not the big superstars. But if they play together as a unit and they also are well-oiled machine, they can give you problems. Fortunately, they are not playing at home, but we still have to travel.
They are going. They are taking us to the venue where we collected an AFCON bronze medal.
Yes. So yeah, Bafana players will
we
be
like
familiar.
that carpet.
They will be familiar with the environment in Abidjan. In Abidjan in that sense. But I can safely say that 6 points is doable. But let's deal with Lesotho first. After a match, let's assess. There will be injuries. There will be knocks here and there, sore bodies. Let's correct. Let's travel. Get to Abidjan. Try and finish the job there. And maybe it will be a fruitful transfer window where we can come back home with 6 points.
Just briefly, before we move away from Bafana, Coach Sauce, what is important from a tactical point of view in these 2 matches? As Zizo talks about Lesotho in terms of the approach, and the Lesotho that I've seen in recent weeks, in recent months, coached by Coach Leslie Notsi, very ultra defensive, low block. I remember a game I watched against Morocco. They defended too deep. It took a very, very late winner from Morocco to win there. They frustrated here at Orlando Stadium, frustrated Zimbabwe. They beat them, I think, 2-1 in that game. They've stolen some points in the World Cup qualifiers.
I think the approach, we are well aware in terms of how they're going to set up, but for me, it's good if they would set up on a low block because we've got personnel and players that understand how to play against the low block. How do you play against the low block is always use your width. So their quality will be tested on their wings, left back and also their right back. What do we need to do? We overload the side, have more numbers in there so that we can stretch the defense. So stretching the defense allows you to have half spaces. Now, if that fails, you change the point of attack. You attack on one side where there's an overload to look on the other side. This is when now we're going to be getting our fullbacks joining the attack. So if you put more numbers, what's the benefit of that? Having more numbers in terms of our own house will mean they won't come out because it's already gives you a counter press immediately from there. So meaning we can steal the ball back and then recycle it. When we're recycling it, we're only going about maybe 40 to 50 meters back to allow them to think that they can breathe, because now if you're going to play a low block, you must be also aware that you have to deal with second balls. Because any balls that will be played in your box, you have to clear them. Once you clear them, who are the first reactors to the ball? How are they going to pick up that? So if we fail to go on the structure, we go around the structure, which is playing on wide end zones. So us knowing that, I'm sure the coach will actually try that, but you cannot always defend for 90 minutes on a low block because there's so many disadvantages on it. Balls can be played in a box. You can find a handball, a clumsiness of defenders fouling players because you are within your own half. But however, if you do make a foul closer to the halfway line or 35 meters away, it still gives you a time to regroup. How are you going to regroup in the box? Because any foul you make is a free kick, then it consider goal.
Yeah. And
Caristo, just to add there maybe on Bafana, I think some of the key decisions that the coach will have to make, I look at the defense. He has the choice, a decision to make between Ngezana and Krankekana. Or Bodlela. Is key there. I think he likes Batusi. I think Batusi will go with Debs in center. At left back, Bazadin, I think he will play with Kulis on the right. I think he will go with Jaden as a 10, Rele as a winger on the left, cutting in. And maybe I think those are.
So we're getting your starting lineup.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much what.
But I really want us to move from this. But before then, we didn't have Mshishi the last time we played.
Jaden.
We didn't have Mshishi at 10, and Masongani stepped up. Scored 2 goals in 2 matches. Was influential even in the away result against Uganda. He's also out now. And the coach, I think in one of the round table he had with us, he spoke about relay as one of the options, but there's also Pesitao back as well. Who do you go with in the 10 role?
Yeah.
To qualify the 6 and 6, you have to go with maturity. To qualify the 6 and 6, because it's no longer about experimental. This is about more experience. So should you want to get hold of this 6 and 6, then it informs you that go with a little bit of much experience, maybe to start and suss out the game. As soon as it opens up, then you start bringing youngsters for the energy side of it and the creativity.
So you're saying Pesi must go?
He's at 10, yeah.
Pesi at 10, and he's played that 10 before.
You can have Jaden come in.
But I think also Rele is strong on a 10. When Pirates tried to experiment with him, playing him wide, I think it didn't work that much because he likes coming from into the half spaces and more wider. So when he drifts up wide, you always end inside. So when he starts outside, he must end inside, which becomes difficult because he's not an out-and-out player that will play on the sides.
Yeah, no. This is the World Cup we're talking about, and I don't think Bafana Bafana has been this close in all its previous World Cup qualifying campaigns to do something meaningful. Siyeke nje leya yasePolokwane kaBra Shakes.
And yasePolokwane.
Again, but I want to remain on this group because Nigeria, I don't want to say this is the last throw of the dice for them, but anything less than 6 points from them in these 2 matches, They are starting in Rwanda. They've been in Rwanda. They've got a new coach. And then they have Zimbabwe. And that Zimbabwean team is not easy.
Happy to be back and looking forward to the upcoming games. My first training was good and I've seen a lot of quality. And I think the future is bright for the Warriors, and I'm looking forward that I help these youngsters and contribute to their development. So yeah, it's quite exciting, and I really hope that they can come up and represent the national team to the highest level. In football, everything is possible, you know, and I think it starts with this game that is coming. The most important is to take the 3 points first in this coming game, and try to go and collect also some points in Nigeria. But I think the focus now has to be against Benin. With this quality and this group, I think we are able to collect maximum points, and it all depends with the work that we put in on training and of course in the match that is coming. So I really believe that we have a team, and personally I would love that we win these 2 games that are coming to stay in the contention of the World Cup qualifiers. He's a great coach, well spoken, and he expressed what he wants and his targets, and so he's quite clear in his vision and everything that he wants to do. So I think it's going to be an exciting journey with him, and of course with the group of players that we have, and I'm looking forward to working with him for the next couple of months that are coming. We really hope that you come in your numbers to support us, and we promise that whenever we are on the field of play, we are going to give our 100%, because this is a national team and we are expected that we deliver for the nation, because we are not only representing ourselves but millions of people, millions of Zimbabweans that are all over the world, not only back home but also watching from the diaspora. So I'm really hoping that they will come in numbers and support us, so that we can give them something back to celebrate when they go back home after the game.
It's going to be very difficult for Nigeria. If there's one team that should be talking confidently about going for 6 points, it's them.
Yeah, as a South African, I think man has one problem.
Chineke?
They'll probably kill me in a bush right now, but yeah, they are going through the most. I mean, as you say, I think anything less than 6 points is going to be big problems for them. Rwanda is not easy. Zimbabwe, they are rebuilding. I think the sleeping giant is awakening. They will be difficult for any team. So I concur with you there. With a new coach and all these other things that have been happening around the team, an expectant nation that wants anything but good results, they will be under a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Also having the pedigree of Nigeria, for me 6 points is a guarantee, and this would anger Nigerians should they not, because the caliber of players that they have in their disposal. I mean, the coach is just a plug and play. It's not a matter, even if as a coach you have a philosophy, your philosophy works around the players that you have, because the only true function of your philosophy comes from the players that you have at disposal. So they are not wrong for saying they can go for 6, nothing less than that.
You are the coach. Previously, you went to take a 34-year-old Kama Billiard, and he's proven to be one of the key players for the team. And that now you bring an even older player in Knowledge Musona, who had retired like 2 years ago or 3 years ago from the national team. What is your thinking?
My thinking is that there's not much to select from that will give you the results that you need. And looking at the knowledge legs, I wouldn't really focus or target his age, because maturity you can't buy it, experience you can't buy it. So when you have a knowledge will be part of the team.
Knowledge for knowledge.
That knowledge for knowledge, and he's going to pass that knowledge down to the players by what? Showing him the way on how to do it, because he has experience and not age on his side. The players have age on their side but no experience.
And he's playing in the top division.
Yeah, so how do we trade off? We trade off by having him to control the guys and actually to help them out in terms of us finding our scoring boots. These are a type of spaces that you look for. This is how you move. This is how you support. On defense, this is how we actually defend as forwards. So that information becomes important for somebody that is seasoned, that understands. He might know his difficulties, that he will need more rest than the other players because of his age. But the younger ones, how are they going to pull their weight when it comes to these qualifiers?
Well, it's going to be very interesting because Zimbabwe is playing against Benin, the first game, and then they have Nigeria. Also on the other side, you have Nigeria playing against Rwanda, and Rwanda has got a new coach in Adel Ambroche. He's just returned from being banned. I think he was banned for 2 years or something. But also now, just looking at some of our guys who are flying the flag, starting with Benni McCarthy, he's got 2 important matches. He makes his debut as the Harambee Stars coach, so to first impressions last. So I'm sure he'll be hoping for something impressive from these first 2 matches. He's away in Abidjan against Gambia, and he's got a home game against Gabon.
Yeah, I think over the last few days since he's been appointed, there's been a good vibe around the country. Benni was a big player. Not so long ago he was at the Theatre of Dreams in England. So when you have somebody with that pedigree, it can only excite the fans and the football. And you don't want to dampen this thing by losing or drawing and stuff. And I think they will try and go out there and get a win. It's not going to be easy. Most of the teams on the continent have improved. You don't have the situations like you have had in the past where, for example, in Nigeria going to Zimbabwe, no. They will beat them, So it's more about preparations. It's more about how players carry themselves. How they follow instructions of the coach. And I think obviously players now, for their advantage, it's always the case, coach. When a new coach comes, players want to uplift so that they can impress and keep their places. So I hope for their sake that they get off to a good footing. And also for Benni to really make a statement. We need our guys to go out there and really show what they can do. Yeah, but it's definitely not going to be easy for them.
I think, Coach Sauce, before we come to you, let's hear from the president of FKF, President Hussein Mohammed, because he was talking about the expectations from Benni and how did they get to select him. I know that we've played something from him in the past, but I just thought because there were pyramids, we must just get him there.
We're showing off now.
Yeah.
For us as a federation, we were looking for an individual, somebody who has got the passion, who has got the charisma, who has got the experience, who has that positive energy with him that he can come and lead a team like Kenya. Kenya is not a small country. Kenya is, it used to be a football powerhouse in the day, and we need to reclaim this glory. So when we looked around, we've looked for somebody who's Pan-Africanist in nature, who supports, who understands what the players go through, but also who's got coaching experience that can take us to that next level. And Benni McCarthy fit the bill perfectly. We believe in him. We believe that he will be able to deliver for the country. We'll give him the opportunity and the freedom and the space to be able to work and deliver for us as per our aspirations as a country. And basically it was a very competitive process, but ultimately, we settled on Benni as our option to lead the national team of Kenya.
And also as a footballer as well, he was someone who was always driven. He was someone also all-time leading goal scorer. But also I think one of his recent jobs, also having worked with Manchester United, so he comes with that international approach to coaching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Benni understands the African culture. South African, Kenya, very similar cultures, we're the same people. So he will not have a difficult time, I think, fitting into the culture. He's been very well accepted at home, which is now his home as well. Kenya is now his home as well. So the international experience that he brings with his stint at Manchester United is just adding more value into the proposition that we already have on the table. So for us, this was also a big consideration when we were bringing him on board. How does he bring the African flair, the African charisma, the African culture, and merge it with the European technical abilities and work ethic, together with all those sort of experiences that have been accumulated over very many years in football administration. These ingredients are critical in making sure that we find a winning formula for Kenya.
I guess when you have the confidence like that from your boss that you are the right man to do this, it becomes easier in terms of just settling into it.
True. I think one of Benni's character is a charismatic coach, which is, I think for me, he has learned a lot from Jose Moreno. A lot of us, I see the glimpse of his sessions where he has his hand around his players, talking to influential players that will make the team tick, this is how you get a buy-in in order for whatever that you're trying to do, and then it comes out. So if winning the players' heart first, they will always want to fight for you. But it will always work on a disadvantage if your players are all over the place, because as we've spoken about that, new coach coming in bring fresh ideas, and having those fresh ideas, new mentality, new training sessions, new information always being collected. Because when you come to a national team, it's important that you plug and you play. So you assessing the team, the first session will inform you about everything that the team is consist of, even your selection that you might have missed, and then this match that is going to play, which is going to be first match, will give him an indicator to maybe some of the disgruntled players that weren't selected, and then he can actually look at the quality of the players that he actually has on disposal. So for me, it's a happy beginning for him. And also with players wanting to fight for a new coach, and a coach that is well admired, that has at point has coached a team that most of the citizens support, which is Man United. So what a way to actually have your idol just next to you and then learn from him.
Yeah. So if maybe you have not you're not aware of how things are going, you can see the groups there, as you can see them. Kenya currently placed fourth in their group. They are together with Ivory Coast, Gabon, Burundi, Gambia, and Seychelles. But also, so they are They are 5 points behind Cote d'Ivoire. But remember, in these qualifiers, number 2 is still very important, because you still go
playoff.
To the playoffs as well. If you are part of, I think, the best of 4 or 6, I think it's there. And it's not the only South African who's out there. This year, we're looking forward to the AFCON in Morocco, where Morena Rebodi, he will be the first South African coach coaching another country at the AFCON. But also, they are standing a very good chance. Here's Zo, sitting on 6 points, just 3 points behind Algeria and Mozambique, who are both on 9 points there. And they've got a very interesting game against Algeria in Francistown.
Yeah, I think just to touch a bit on Morena, I think he's one of those guys that you can't, you really have to love. He's a passionate guy, and I think playing in the Champions League with joining has toughened him up, because he's tough out there. You can see even the way he deals with the media. He doesn't take nonsense from anyone, and he will take that experience into the national team.
Yes.
He will be good for them. And I think now he's solely focused on the national team now. He's someone who you really wish that he can do very well. Not coaching one of the I mean, with due respect, but Botswana is not really the best team on the continent. But he will have to work with what he has, He has got respect of the players. Some of the players, you will know them very well from the club. Algeria is Algeria, It's always going to be very difficult. Two styles of
I saw
of
Riyad
play.
Mahrez the other day arriving in camp, and I was like, yeah.
So you are going to compete against that quality. And but when you're at home, you really need to make people feel that they're playing away. Morena can only wish him well, really, with Botswana. Whatever happens, they might just compete and see how far they can go. Yeah, you'll never know. I mean, not so long ago, Angola qualified for the World Cup. So if you really do things right, if you fight, if the players are focused and they all put their shoulders behind the wheel, anything is possible.
And it's also a good build-up to the AFCON. In fact, these World Cup qualifiers for him.
Yeah, very. Like we've mentioned, I think being in the league and as an outside coach, coaching in the same league and doing well, I think for me this casks more confidence within the citizen, because having a coach that is part of your league and now is in a national team, a good build-up, and I think now they find a synergy. Which is for him playing also, as we've mentioned, that playing on the CAF, also give you that understanding that things are not easy when it comes to these standards.
I think when I'm gloating about just being there next to the pyramids, it was not easy like that. It was not easy like that.
Yeah, because we were sitting
and let me
here.
tell you, I remember I was on this radio interview on Metro FM with Brian Mufokeng, and we were previewing the General Assembly. So at some stage I found myself, I'm talking about people who are just around me here. And I said, hey, Brian, and I don't know how the listeners took it. I said, Brian, hey, let me step outside. Hey. But I think for me, Zizo,
because you were there. I think you will be probably the right person to can give us a picture of the inner workings of what was happening there. Did you see any brand envelope inside there under the door?
But let me tell you something. On the eve of these elections, I spoke to some of the guys involved in the game, especially here from our region. A lot of people were not happy. They were very unhappy, talking about how they are being forced to vote for people they don't want to vote for. And that shocked me. And they were also saying, these things, they thought they are long past these things. And at the time, there was talk that maybe the big mother body in Zurich is also counted in the space of trying to force people to vote for certain candidates. And when you also look in the makeup of the final product of those elections, you saw that the Anglophone was locked out. In those elections. And we're talking about the Anglophone countries that are, 21 of them on the continent. And going there was Amacho Pinnick. He missed only by one vote to equal the same vote that Yahya Mohammed got and also Waberi got as well. But one of the big things that was also said there was a pact between COSAFA and SECAFA. The pact didn't seem, because the pact was saying COSAFA will help SECAFA to vote in Suleiman Waberi, who comes from Djibouti. And vice versa, you had to see SECAFA also supporting Andrew Kamanga. Kamanga only got 29 votes. In fact, only got 19 votes, 10 less than Waberi. And the talk now, post, was that did SECAFA maybe not carry their side of the deal in all of this. And I managed to speak to some few people even after that. And some of them, they were saying, but maybe COSAFA has got their own issues. One of them was also saying maybe COSAFA was not strong in leadership, in managing the situation. But also another one was saying SECAFA has not maybe played the ball in all of this. But also even there, one of the people from SECAFA was saying, but it could also be that COSAFA was also divided. And I tried to ask, what are they talking about? They said, no, there's always talk of COSAFA inland or mainland and COSAFA islands. And COSAFA Islands, you're talking about the Comoros, you're talking about Mauritius, you're talking about your Seychelles, you're talking about Madagascar, have also come under scrutiny of maybe siding more with Morocco.
And that may be
And
the
if you
influence
see
of the
some
language.
of them where they are playing their matches even now.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And the language.
And the language as well.
Français.
And the language as well. Exactly. And I think for me, this language issue is very important, Zizo, because you go there as COSAFA, right? You have got a regional mandate. But now when you hear what I'm talking about, we're also talking about the language issue. There's also Francophone. So what comes first? Is it the language or is it the regionalism? Because one will say language, but also one will say, but the region must have a representative at FIFA. So it's a very interesting case because this one, because I saw there's also a post that's been doing the rounds, Arab Football Federation. I've never heard of an Arab Football Federation, but it's celebrating the Arab speaking members who were voted into the. We're talking about just 6 positions, of which about 3 or 4 of them are Arab speaking. So it's So I foresee serious issues going forward. But I understand that COSAFA has got a council meeting in the next week or so, where they are going to thresh out these things.
But just to ask, maybe, Karesto, isn't it this maybe one of the things that must be top on the list for the president, to try and really unite the continent, because the continent cannot continue to be divided along language, tribal issues, and all that kind of thing, where really we need to spread things across. You know, I mean, you can't. COSAFA is quite a big region.
You know,
not to be represented there is really quite a shame.
And unfortunately, Morocco is taking center stage in all of this. You know, because Morocco is powerful. You must also look in the makeup of what is happening now, even with the nations that are not able to play at home. Most of them are playing in Morocco. I know some of them, a few are playing here in South Africa, you know. And also it is in whose interests this is being done. And also people are saying there's nothing wrong about people controlling power, because at the end of the day, it's about power. Yes, we can talk about the president that he must try and unite them. But in this case, you could see, in fact, I think there's a picture. In fact, if you look in that picture, Zizo, look in that picture. You see Faw's lecture there. You see Yahya Mohammed there. And you see Abu Rida. If you remember what happened in Addis Ababa, when CAF had to change or amend their constitution so that those who are 70 and old or older can contest. And Abu Rida was said at the time that he was considering challenging Motsepe. But unfortunately for him, that's when the force of the other 5 regions came out to show that Motsepe, even if he's challenged, but he'll be a tsunami at the elections. And yes, the whole thing was changed, but then that picture of the 3 of them during the counting process, it tells you everything. So I think it is about the power. But I think what is very interesting in all of this is that with all these numbers we're talking about, the voting numbers are in the sub-Saharan Africa.
They are, but I mean, you know, if you look at the
how
the
did they vote
product
for the? Because you look at someone like Augustine Sengo, for instance, a first vice president at CAF, and he only got what? I mean, the number of votes he got, paltry numbers. You know?
Yeah, I guess also there must be a deeper discussion as to how are these North Africans getting it right. You know, we don't want to make we don't know accuse people of anything, but you know, that's a discussion for another day. How are they doing?
Let's just say resources.
If you have got resources,
resources. Resources. They are hosting the next WAFCON. They are hosting the next World Cup. They are hosting the next AFCON. They host, but on the side of hosting, I don't want to blame them because we are also to blame as South Africa. We hosted the 2010 World Cup, and we are not showcasing the infrastructure that we've got as South Africa. We were offered a chance to host an under-17 AFCON and under-20 AFCON for the next 3 editions. We're nowhere to be seen.
we messed up the Women's World Cup a bit. You know, we could have
Exactly.
probably become here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when it comes to hosting, we are to blame there. I mean, the under 20 AFCON that is now going to Cote d'Ivoire.
Ivory Coast, yeah.
It was coming to us. We didn't take it. I understand now we are even bidding for the Women's Champions League. We're dilly-dallying. Is a tray, but we're dilly-dallying.
No, it's an administrative issue, but I think a deeper discussion needs to be made, and I think the president, Mr. Dr. Patrice Motsepe, really need to find a way. I know it's complex; it's not that easy to find a way how he can unite the continent, so that something like this does not happen again. Because you can't have one bloc dominating and then the rest of the people are outside. It's just not fair.
Yeah. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's about how organized you are. You are not just given things unorganized. So people that are organized, as we spoke about, also resources, are they put into good use? If resources are put into good use, then that will make sense. But if you're given resources and they're misdirected, you are bound to fall into such things. And when you are given...
Depends what kind of resources are you
He's talking about the other resources.
Yeah, but I must tell you that the president... Fawzi Lekja, the president of the Moroccan Football Federation, the Royal Moroccan Football Federation, he's also the Minister of Finance in Morocco. And the king in Morocco is very much behind football. You've seen their center? Yes. So he's very much behind that.
Even the ladies who are playing, they get stipends. They get paid money. You get paid money to go play.
Organization again.
Elsewhere, the list said about this.
Organization again.
There's some exciting period that we're talking about. We've always been talking about our junior national teams qualifying for AFCON and also under 20 AFCON as well. But it is not just about qualifying. It is about getting to the World Cup. For the under 17, it's different. They just need to be one of the 10 teams going to qualifying out of this tournament, and they are leaving for Morocco on the 24th. But also there's under 20 as well. Very interesting team. How important is to see these boys making it to the World Cup?
Very. It's very important to see these boys making it to the World Cup, which is one benefit is for the country. Second benefit is for the teams that they play for, because already they're in the world stage, which is the marketing gets a little bit higher and the stakes get higher also for them to grow into their space in football. Because at the age where they are, this is like where you see the Spanish guys making it into the World Cups, the Euros, the Yamil Yamal, to name a few. So for us also, the first step is actually to get there. We cannot preempt being there by not doing the work first. So I think doing the work first, we got the pedigree, we got the players that can do that. And I think we are on the right direction in terms of us qualifying for that. It's not a really tough workload that the boys cannot put up with in terms of qualifying for this, as you said, part of the 10 teams that are actually going to be making it to the World Cup. I think it's doable.
I was looking at the squad of the Moroccan team. I think they're playing against Sierra Leone and they're playing against Ghana, the under 20 team. They've got players from Inter Milan, PSG, Lens, Lille, Marseille. You know, a star-studded squad in terms of if you look at the clubs. But also someone was telling me that we've got a very interesting team, and I think we've shown even at the AFCON that even with a squad dominated by locally based players, we can still do wonders.
Yeah, squad depth is important, and also experience. And you bring in players from Europe to your national team. It gives an edge in terms of tactical understanding, game management, understanding of information and processing it, and understanding also an opposition, because that plays a very important role in terms of where the others are playing compared to where the others are playing. And when you come to a national team structure, it's easy to gel when you are all under the same canvas, whereby you are more tactical than actually the pure talent. Because we more or less rely, where we call it in SAFA, they call it the Tsamaya. So the Tsamaya side of it would be our plus, because we can't really play the way the tactical teams are, because if you have that element of technicality, the technicality side is where your ball control, your dribbles, your managing of your spaces and so on. So sometimes a too rigid team, you can always break it with an individual brilliance. So which is individual brilliance at the end of the day will take center stage within the tactical side.
If this team of under 20s is so, I was in South Korea in 2017 with the team of Tebogo Mokwena, Keletso Magalwa, Grant Mahaman. But this team reminds me of the 2009 team of Andile Jali, Tulani Serero, Tulani Hlachwayo.
Egypt or something.
In Egypt, yes. Because that team of Clement Erasmus and them had players who were more active in top flight football. And when you look at this team of Mfundo Vilakazi and all these boys, Abole Tlako and them.
Yeah, I think it's important, but I want to answer it this way. When you're talking about how the Moroccan national team, some of these kids at big clubs, I remember we had this discussion with Coach Rulani while he was at Sundowns, and he really said something which was fascinating, that he said he does not understand why South African players mature late. Because really, we should be taking them out at 17, 18, 19. Yes. It pains me that Rele is still in the country. Really, he should be.
I've got some interesting news for you.
Yeah, I see the Barcelona thing is picking up now. I don't know how true is that, but he should move, really. It will be a big blow for Pirates because it's a key player for them, but he should move. And maybe a few others. Mabena, if it was not for that injury, I think he was going to get more opportunities to play. So we need to take them out early so that they can compete at a higher level to what we have here now. We're not disrespecting our football, but it's just the reality of the situation. I mean, if a kid is at Bruges or Manchester or whatever, we name those clubs, it's a higher level of football. But be that as may, we are here. Yes, so, we have got the sporadic here and there of the players who are exposed to Premiership football. If they are released to go, because that's another story. They will really add value to their teams. I just don't see a situation where Kaizer Chiefs will let.
but I had a conversation with someone closer to one of the clubs, and the club that won here. This past weekend, and I was saying, the way Mbogazi Axosha ngayo man of the match, imagine nizothini. But I like the response. The boy understands the vision, and I think Orlando Pirates in this case also they understand the vision, because if we look at Munetsi, you see an Orlando Pirates team that understands the vision, and in this case they will know that the scouts are there. The scouts are there. Also, it's a deal, and I think for me, part of these boys playing now is also by the time they go to the AFCON, they are established senior team players with numbers, so that whoever spots them at the AFCON, it's my humble opinion, because is to say you spotted Orlando Pirates first team player who's got so many matches that he's played.
True.
Just to add, maybe before you go, Coach, sometimes it's unbelievable that a player get picked for Bafana at 25-26, not having played any minute of junior international football. That's a crime against humanity. It should not happen. There must be.
We had a lot of them.
A lot of them
during the World Cup. Yeah.
So obviously there will be exceptions to the rule. Once in a while, you'll have that player who somehow the system missed him. But really, young good players, you see them when they're young, man. They must have Kosafa, they must have Chan, they must have played international football.
100%.
We were not going to keep a guy at Bafana 27. His first camp is the first time he sees the national team. Nah, that's not right.
Maybe just to summarize everything, I think this starts from the club setup and the academies in terms of their properness. How are they actually line up? You have your Chiefs, you have your Pirates, you have your Sundowns, and so on. So if they're playing more structured or having coaches that can help the players to develop, because that's where it starts, then it feeds off to the national team Only now we're having under 15 national teams. So the void in between, what are we doing when we are young? And when are players being introduced? And when do players really start to then now we start seeing the pillars? Are the players strong enough? Are the players can run? They can dribble? Do they understand the play? Are they well nutrition? So that's some of the components that fit into a professional player. So in us now having a 29-year-old, they're maturing in reverse, meaning the age is there, not the information gathered when you were young. So when you're gathered when you're young, a player right now who is at Sundowns, who's 12 years old, the type of training that he's getting is equal to the national team when he's ready to receive and apply. So when you get somewhere at 21 that was playing Emma Plazi, it's not going to be the same. So if we get an opportunity at the Nedbank and then he plays well against Chiefs or Pirates, we guarantee we're going to see him in the national team. But does he have the temperament of understanding that national team when you were young, we used to travel to Europe, we played these tournaments, we've done this, we've done that. Now when you come to the senior side, it's easy to acclimatize because firstly, the jersey does not scare you. The only thing that will scare you now, you're playing at the upper level where you cannot go down.
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting point, and this point we must carry it into the next
Let me tell you
edition.
a classic story. When Miguel team made his debut for Bafana, I think it was against Angola or Mozambique in Mbombela. At the same age, Eden Hazard was retiring for Belgium.
It answers your question.
Yeah, but this point that you've just made now, it made me remember now a place where coaching changes have just taken place. But one of the points I was getting there is that the coach is here in terms of credentials and also his knowledge and everything in terms of application. But the players' understanding are there.
I know the problem there.
Yes.
I know the problem.
We will go there.
Okay,
we'll go there next time.
definitely.
Trust me. But to the last point that I wanted to bring, because the under-17 is leaving now, and one of the things that I like is that Cape Town City started playing Vet Boy.
Vet Boy,
Yes. And Vet Boy, for me, people also don't know that Chelsea came to Vet Boy. It's something that I wrote about in your opinion piece on the Hollywood Bets blog. They spotted him in Abidjan during the FIFA technical what do they call it?
Oh yeah. The
Development scheme,
under 15.
TDS.
Yeah,
FIFA
TDS,
technical development scheme tournament. So you see where they have to go. But good news that we have now, and we're talking about what we are talking about, that our talent is not being spotted. Remember, there was an issue of Y Scout and all these other platforms where footage can be viewed, PSL footage, and the scouts even. So I think the contract had lapsed. We're talking about Instead previously.
Oh yes.
So I understand now. It looks like Y Scout has finally signed a deal with the PSL. So now finally our boys,
players will be seen there.
Exposed.
Players will be exposed.
Yeah,
but
true.
I can tell you now, I don't expect. There are some players I don't expect them to come back. Especially when you look at the Vet Boys, the Newo Muhlukos, even at under 20, someone like Mbokazi. Mbokazi, for me, he's like
He's built.
He's a big boy.
a West African centre back.
Yeah. And he's left-footed.
He's left-footed.
For me,
Rare.
For me, it's a good plus for Orlando Pirates for the troubles they've been having at the back. Finally, somebody comes and complements the left-hand side, which has been one of the most problematic, where we're not having a natural left centre back.
But he's going to leave them.
I understand, but again, that money buys you another one.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you
must
complain
invest it
because
back. Yeah.
what are you doing? This is business.
And
You
now
can't
they
keep
go
the
deep
player-
into the conveyor belt now.
Yeah, you
If
can't
you see
really
how they are doing things.
look at the players that have come up
Yeah.
in their development structures.
Yeah.
That informs you in terms of what they are trying to do. But now put those players in a market to resell them. While they're still on their prime where you can cash in more, then you can always use the other players. So now if you want to hang on too much to the player, then you are risking. And then in that business, your return of investment will be far little. So at their prime right now, as they're wanted, they can name any price they can get that.
Yeah.
But as soon as it lapses, then you're going to
I'm just happy that he will play a CAF Champions League quarterfinal. So they must go through there.
Yeah.
So he's got 2 matches to play against MC
He's
Alger.
going to be tested in the Champions League.
He's going to be tested, but that test,
It's
what I
good for
like,
him, yeah.
is coming before the AFCON under 20. So that's what he needs right there. We come to the story of, and you handled it well with Jabulo last week, but I've also been talking to some coaches about this resignation of the SAFA technical director, Walter Steenbok. Especially for you as a coach, how do you look at it? When you look at, you will see there, just in terms of the coaching qualifications, that is done there, returning the CAF A, the CAF B. You just look at the programs, everything that is done there.
It's painful for me, in a sense that the educational structure was already built. The man has brought CAF B license for how many years? It's been not in existence. What is he trying to do? Upskill everybody from coach's side, trying to create tournaments like the TD tournament that he had, where we're exposed to the young boys now who are going to the under 17. So you got somebody that is hard at work, that understands the football space in terms of how to regenerate the Bafana Bafana products, because everything starts with the technical director. So now when we're having a technical director that resigns, for me it's a huge concern, because that means you are lost. It's like we're traveling in the forest with no torch. So right now we don't know what you're going to put what and what together. His credentials actually showed us that we're losing a gem in this guy, which understand all part of the football circumference, which is from the science side, from the coaching side, where he's trying to upskill everybody to be on par, so then our nation could be respected again. So when you find a person resigning of this pedigree, for me, I feel is a big loss. Somebody that is on academic development, I always say, plans that I put up to groom and grow players, for me to reproduce for teams or for the national team. Because now you are at the final stage. Every team that produces young players, they are producing those young players for the national team. No team produces players for their own. Is to produce for the nation. Now we're losing one of our sources.
And Caristo, what should worry us even more is the reason why he's leaving.
What may be the reason? Maybe Caristo. Maybe
that one is very difficult.
It's hard.
Because I've listened to all sorts of things, and I've read so there were also issues that he wanted a car because there's these new VW cars. But also I've listened, but one of the things is I've been hearing about is also the lack of support. For instance, these coaching programs that we are looking at, apparently SAFA is not even spending a cent on these coaching courses that we're talking about. The money is purely coming from the coaches themselves.
Yes,
for instance, this CAF A freshers course that is now, I saw that the coaches are paying 7,000 rands each.
Yes.
For CAF A license, I think it's
40,000. CAF B is 20,000. Outsider, you 25,000.
Yes, and there's nothing. So the FA, they just come when it's the capping, and also the biggest one.
If one of these coaches wins something on the continent, they will be sitting there in the airport waiting for them to come
and
talk in there.
The big one, I think it's got to do with his salary. I think if you go back to the time when they were advertising this, I think it was between 800,000 and 900,000 annually. And we're talking about a senior ranking official.
Yes.
And 800,000, 900,000 annually to that. And guess how much his predecessor, the full-time, was getting?
Surely triple.
Over 3 million annually.
Ew.
So I think we are bound to have challenges there. And it reminds me of what someone like President Petrus Motsepe said. You remember when Coach Peter Mosimane was renewing during COVID period? He said, if you don't pay good people,
they leave.
They will leave you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. They say
Yeah.
if you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Ish,
And
yeah.
monkeys don't eat peanuts also.
Ish. You were also telling me that you saw, in fact, because we saw Dr. Ngwenya resigning
Right.
as well, but Dr. Ngwenya is back. So you're hoping that maybe there can be something similar with the TD.
Yeah, you hope so. You know, for the team, I mean, as the coach has said, there's this word that has been used now of pipeline. If you have got two junior national teams going to big tournaments, there's no TD. Somebody who would have had a lot in terms of their preparation to make sure that they prepare well is not there. That's a problem. The chief medical guy, Dr. Ngwenya, not so long ago, apparently left. I see he's back now.
Merry-go-round.
Yeah, and I didn't even announce that he's back. I just saw a Twitter thing there that he's got the certificate from FIFA and all those kinds of things. You know, so this is another thing that our people next door here sometimes don't get things right, and we really need to tighten things up to make sure that we run this football properly. A lot of things are mistakes which could be avoided. A lot of things are things that you can also point directly, to be blunt, to incompetence at some stage, sometimes, and it's not good enough. Our football suffers because of these kinds of things. I mean, off air we're just talking about these teams that are going to AFCON now, the junior national teams, are camping at Fanville. For me, I don't take that Fanville thing serious. If I was a parent that my kid is going to be staying there, I will withdraw my kid out of that thing. They should put these kids in a hotel, get proper training grounds, prepare well to go to AFCON. We must stop messing around with that because it's a joke, that thing. It should not be
In
a
fact,
thing.
we were supposed to have an under-15 boys academy. Apparently, FIFA said no, because I think FIFA was going to provide close to 15 million rands for that. They said because there's no safety at Fanville.
Yeah.
So I think those are the issues, and we hope that the leadership of Dr. Dennis Dan can look into these issues, because football is the core business.
Yeah, if I was a parent, I would not allow my kid to go stay.
Yeah,
There's
no. I think
It's unacceptable.
it's something that they really have to look at. We close now. It's not a topic that I really wanted to talk about, but I also understand that, especially after the draw this past weekend, it's been 4 draws in a row now. In fact, if you convert at least just 2 matches, 2 of these draws, they would have been comfortably on the second spot, Wydad, and they were not in the CAF Confed, they were not in the CAF Champions League, but they are going to the Club World Cup. So Coach Rulani, yes, is under pressure there, but let's just hear from him briefly in terms of what he's talking about here.
I think it was a good game, 2 good teams, very good pitch. Congratulations also to Tangier, because they gave a very good performance. And I'm also proud of this group. Great performance. We deserved a better result, unfortunately, today. Maybe the draw is not a true reflection of the performance of the players, but good. Let's accept the draw. And of course, the people are disappointed. We are disappointed. The players are disappointed. Look, when you bring me to Wydad, you bring me with a certain style of play. And I will never abandon my style of play. I'm sorry. I've worked very, very hard as a coach to build and to study and to research what works. It's worked for me in the past, and I'm sure it will work here. It needs a little bit of time. But I must tell you that I am in a position where I love the club so much. And I can tell you guys, if I am the problem, if I am the problem for Wydad, believe me, I will be the first one to ask for permission to go back to South Africa. If I am the problem, I give the president and the board full responsibility to relieve me from my duties. If I am the problem, and I don't want to hold Wydad back. If Wydad feels that they can be better with me, without me, then believe me, I love this club too much to be a problem at the club. So that is that. Let's not question the style of play. Rather, I mean, you saw how many chances we had. Today we had a lot of chances. We should have scored.
Very interesting, Zuzu.
Yeah.
Harsh words from him to say, if he's the one to blame, yeah, Angaishai.
Yeah, he's going through a tough time. I just hope that he goes to the Club World Cup. They mustn't pull the trigger before. And I think they must be a little bit patient. I understand Wydad is a big club, the standards are high, but who said big clubs have got the right to win every match, you know? And I mean, if you look at where he found them to where he is now, it's a project, you know. Sometimes you really have to believe in the project. There will be potholes along the way. Rulani is a guy who works very, very hard, and if he gets enough time, he will fix them. He will get them right. But on the evidence of what's happening now, it's a little bit tight, and those guys are very, very they're very, very forceful. The people,
I saw
they're very aggressive.
I saw an Esperance coach who was fired just after 2 draws.
Yeah.
I love her.
Yeah, it's a coach Pizzo came back and says, those people, they will give you stress every time. You win, they still complain.
They still complain.
Yeah, so it's another world.
But for me, I think this is unjust. Whatever that they're holding him accountable to, no. 25 matches, 11 wins, 10 draws, 4 losses, 43 points. Then what do you say about that? They're sitting third. Just shy away points in terms of being number 2. So the patient part for me comes in how Wydad used to play and how they play now.
Yeah.
Different. It takes time to actually bring in the flair of the game mixed with the tactical components. Because now he has brought in that. Better understanding, free movement team, understanding spaces. They are playing. Now you can sit down and watch Wydad and say, hey, they're the team.
Lodge also scored in this last game.
Look at the games that they are playing and how they score their goals. Effortless goals, training session stuff. So all the stuff that Rulani is trying to put together, somebody that is going to come into that is going to benefit, or either is going to collapse it.
Yeah. Do you think maybe it's the pressure of not having been in the Champions League, and now they expect the team week in, week out to be in a Champions League spot? And also, I mean, when you still have is it 8 matches that they're still left with? When you still have 8 matches, you don't really have to worry about it because you can cover that.
But you're getting a team on a rebuild. It's a rebuild from the disaster that how they've panned out in the league. So you're getting somebody that is closer to the objectives. And then what are you saying now? You want to let go of a person that has gotten you from a different direction to now you sitting third. Now, guys, let's justify.
And he's not the one
now.
who didn't qualify for the Champions League. I mean, he's trying to get back into the Champions League. So
Exactly.
give the guy a chance, you know.
Yeah. No. I just want to see him in the Champions League, and it's important that he is in the Champions League. Apparently, there's talk that he must be in a Champions League spot. So because if he doesn't get a Champions League spot, from what I was reading in Morocco, he will not go to the Club World Cup, and we don't want that.
Well,
we want to see Rulani sitting on the other side, Pep sitting on the other side of the dugout.
That will
So
be a
that's it.
dream. That will be a dream. I think that's what they signed
I
him
don't
for.
know what's going to happen on that bench, but you know.
You'll always respect your father. That's all I can tell you. You'll always respect your father.
Yeah, no. On that note, that's how we wrap it up for this weekend. In fact, for this week, I must say on African Football Connect, we're looking forward to some very good results, and we hope that when we come back, Bafana Bafana would have made us proud with a 6 on 6. Sitini?
Jumbo
Africa.